Before I show you one such narrative on display, let me go to something Candace Parker, the legend Candace Parker, who was just inducted this weekend into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, the Candace Parker who has the Post Moves podcast with Aliyah Boston. I want to go to something she said in 2025 because, of course, Caitlin only played 13 games in 2025. So we're going to go to something she said on Yahoo Sports, and then we'll go over to Sports Skeeta on Facebook and see what.
2 wins. That's all it took. 2 wins without Caitlin Clark, and suddenly the narrative machine fires up like clockwork. Maybe Indiana's better without her. You can almost set your watch by it. And what makes this fascinating isn't just that people are saying it, it's that they're only saying it about her.
But why is it that Indiana, with Caitlin Clark, if Indiana wins and Caitlin is not playing for some reason, why is it, well, my goodness, they won without Caitlin. Therefore, I think they're better without Caitlin Clark. Why? Now, remember, Phoenix had to play 1 game without Alyssa Thomas because of the fist to the throat. And she was suspended only 1 game. Ask me why it was only 1 game. I can't tell you, but anyway, only 1 game. I digress there.
Phoenix Mercury won without Alyssa Thomas after her suspension. 9-point victory. The Mercury, who've been struggling all season, managed just fine without their leader. And the response? Crickets. No think pieces, no social media debates about whether Phoenix plays better without Thomas. Just the expected reaction. The team stepped up when they had to. Minnesota's been without Napheesa Collier for stretches this season. Same thing. People acknowledge it's tough, but nobody's questioning whether the Lynx are secretly better off. It's treated like what it is, a challenge the team has to overcome. But with Clark, different rules apply. And the question we need to answer is why this double standard exists, and what the actual numbers tell us when you look beyond 2 games.
Mercury is a better team without Alyssa Thomas. No, I didn't read one thing about that. Minnesota Lynx without Napheesa Collier all season after, ironically, an encounter with Alyssa Thomas. I have not heard anybody say, Minnesota Lynx better without Napheesa Collier. No. What you generally hear reasonable, knowledgeable people say when a star is out, they say, well, Napheesa Collier's not playing, her team is going to have to step up. Alyssa Thomas is not playing, her team is going to have to step up. What you heard Candace Parker say is that, no, they're not better without Caitlin Clark, but in these situations, teammates step up.
Candace Parker, newly inducted into the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame, co-host of a podcast with Aliyah Boston, addressed this exact narrative back in 2025. She didn't dance around it, she said it plainly. For those naysayers out there that are like, you're better without Caitlin, they're not. They're not better without Caitlin. And then she added the key part that everyone seems to forget. But I do feel like times like this, different people step up. That's the actual story. Not that the team magically improves when their best player sits. It's that professional athletes do what they're paid to do. Adjust, adapt, execute a different game plan. When your star is out, you don't just fold. You change the offense, redistribute usage, and see who can rise to the moment.
The LA Sparks, not the best team in the league. Now, that doesn't mean the win is any less important. It doesn't matter. I don't make the schedule. I just play who's in front of me, and I should try to annihilate them. I don't care who it is, and I don't care whether people are injured or not in terms of how I'm going to approach the game. I'm not going to like hold back. No, you're supposed to have that killer instinct. So without Kelsey Plum, without Cameron Brink, you also have to consider those things. So somebody did comment and say, well, you're talking about the team is better without Caitlin. They're like, maybe the Sparks are just not better without Kelsey Plum and Cameron Brink. But that whole perspective is lost when it comes to Caitlin Clark, because for whatever reason, people go bonkers whenever anything involving Caitlin comes up, and they find themselves having an opportunity to try to diminish her.
Look at those 2 games without Clark this season. Portland first, 90-73 win. Aliyah Boston goes off for 24 points. Kelsey Mitchell adds 21. Lexi Hull chips in 16. Monique Billings contributes 9. Nearly everyone on the roster scores. It's a complete team effort, exactly what should happen when you lose your primary playmaker. Then Saturday against the Sparks, 1-on-11, 87 blowout. Mitchell leads with 26, Boston adds 17, Damiris Dantas puts up 16. Again, balanced scoring, strong defense, dominant performance. And the reaction isn't, wow, great team win under difficult circumstances. It's, see? They don't need her. But here's what that reaction conveniently ignores. Context matters. The Sparks are depleted. No Kelsey Plum, no Cameron Brink. They're struggling. Indiana did exactly what a playoff-caliber team should do against a weakened opponent. They dominated. That's not evidence they're better without Clark. It's evidence they're a good team that can execute when circumstances demand it.
It says the offense operates differently, and the team has blown out opponents when she has sat out. No, team is not better without Caitlin. Fever performs better and is more potent with her in the lineup. It does then discuss the better offense debate, and it says when Clark sits out, the ball isn't continuously orbiting around one high usage player. This forces the team to diversify their offensive mix, resulting in notable high-scoring nights where secondary stars like Kelsey Mitchell and Aliyah Boston step up with elevated usage rates. Of course, we know that Mitchell and Boston score anyway, but elevated usage rates. This diverse ball movement has led some analysts to argue, and people online, to argue that the offense looks harder to predict in these specific stretches. That's what I mean when I say it looks different. It then goes on to say, despite the tactical adaptability the team shows without her, meaning playing differently and stepping up.
So let's talk about what actually changes when Clark isn't on the floor, because this is where it gets interesting. The offense does operate differently. That part is true. Without Clark, the ball isn't constantly orbiting around one high-usage player who draws defensive attention 94 feet from the basket. The system diversifies. Secondary options get elevated usage rates. The offense becomes harder to predict in those specific stretches because teams haven't scouted for it. But different doesn't mean better. It means adjusted. It means Coach Stephanie White has to implement a completely different game plan, and the players have to execute roles they don't normally fill. Sometimes that works brilliantly for a game or two. Sometimes you catch an opponent off guard. Sometimes role players have career nights because they're getting touches they wouldn't normally see. None of that changes the fundamental equation. Over the long haul, over a full season, over a playoff series, you're not better without a generational talent. You're making do.
Without Caitlin, which was Indiana and Portland. Indiana had 90 points, Portland had 73, which has caused some people to say, oh, see there, they're better without Caitlin Clark. Well, no, what we had are players who do what professional players do, and that is step up. In that game, Aliyah Boston went off for 24 points. Kelsey Mitchell had 21 points. You got 16 points from Lexi Hull, and Monique Billings added 9 points. And you also had 9 points off the bench for Raven. And then other points, you had almost everybody scoring in this game. So everybody stepped up. You altered your game plan because Caitlin Clark was not on the floor. Other people are going to have to step up, and you're going to have to play differently, and it worked. And then, of course, on Saturday when Indiana played the Sparks, a team that has struggled and is suffering from injury. Indiana did what Indiana was supposed to do, and that is step up and play well. And in this game, back to Sportskeeda, you see right here, Ty Harris, 16 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. Aliyah Boston, 17 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. Kelsey Mitchell, 26 points, 4 3-pointers, 3 rebounds. But of course, Sportskeeda wants to point this part out, a complete team effort as
The way Clark gets defended changes everything about how Indiana has to play. She's guarded full court, often by multiple defenders. That creates gravity, defensive attention that opens up opportunities for everyone else. Yes, it also means teammates have to adjust to playing off her, to cutting at the right times, to being ready when she whips a pass from an impossible angle. With her in the game, the pace is different, the tempo is higher, the number of possessions increases. The three-point attempts go up because she's taking and making shots from distances most players won't even attempt. The defensive schemes opponents run are entirely built around stopping her, which means everyone else is playing against a defense that's tilted toward one player. Without her, sure, the offense looks more balanced on paper. Usage is spread around. The ball moves differently. But you're also missing the player who led the league in assists, who creates open looks that wouldn't exist otherwise, who forces defenses into rotations that break down their structure.
At the team in 2026 first in the 2 games played without Caitlin. Look at those numbers. And then I'm going to look at last season where she barely played at all. So that's really where you're going to get your truth. So let's go to StatMuse. So here we are this season, 2026. The Indiana Fever have a 9-8 record with Caitlin Clark this season. So a winning record with Caitlin this season. Now we're going to take a look at with her and without her and compare some of these stats. We're going to do the percentages per game, and then it gets into total numbers. We're not going to do all that, but we'll look at the per game percentages. So the top line here is with Caitlin. The record with Caitlin this season, 9-8. The record without Caitlin, 2-0. Obviously, it's 2 games. That's it. 2 games. So with Caitlin in this season, you have the win percentage at almost 53% of the games won. Without her, the 2 games, all games won. Won them all. All's the wrong word. Won them both. Games played with Caitlin, 17. Without 2. We don't need to go into minutes per game. Points per game. With Caitlin, 93.2 points per game. Without Caitlin, 100.5 points per game. Rebounds, 33.8 rebounds with Caitlin, and 38.5 without Caitlin rebounds. Assists per game, 21.1 with Caitlin, 22 without Caitlin. Steals per game, 6.1 with Caitlin, 6.0 without Caitlin. So slightly more steals with Caitlin. Blocks per game, 3.9 with her, 5.5 without her. Field goals made, 32.2 with her, 32.5 without her. Field goals attempted, 68.9 with her, without her, 64.5. And I'm not surprised that the attempts with her are more because of the pace with which she plays. Field goal percentage, 46.8 with her, 50.4 without her. 3-pointers made, 9.8 with her, 9.5 without her. 3-pointers attempted, 27.5 with her, 23.5 without her. Makes total.
Now here's where we get into the actual data, because feelings and narratives are one thing, numbers are another. This season, Indiana has played 17 games with Clark and 2 without her. That's not a useful sample size for the without category. You can't draw meaningful conclusions from 2 games, but people are trying to anyway. With Clark this season, 9-8 record, 53% win percentage, 93.2 points per game, 21.1 assists per game, 33.8 rebounds per game, field goal percentage of 46.8%, 3-point percentage of 40.5%. Without Clark, 2-0 record, 100% win percentage, because it's literally 2 games. 100.5 points per game, 22 assists, 38.5 rebounds. Field goal percentage jumps to 50.4%. On the surface, some of those numbers look better. But again, 2 games. One against Portland, one against a depleted Sparks team. You're not measuring a trend. You're measuring variance and matchup-specific performance.
The 3-point percentage, 35.8 with her, 40.4 without her. Free throws made, 18.9 with her, 26 without her. Free throws attempted, 23 with her this season, 31 without her. This really stands out to me because it says that the team is taking more free throws when she isn't playing than when she is, which is kind of interesting, seeing as she is getting hacked a lot. And obviously they're not getting an opportunity to get to the free throw line as much when she's in the game getting hacked. Free throw percentage, 82.1 with her, 83.9 without her. And the true shooting percentage, 59 with her, 64.3 without her. 8.2 offensive rebounds with her, 7 drops to 7 without her on the offensive rebounds. Defensive, 25.6 with her, 31.5 without her. True turnovers per game, 16.6 with her, 14 without her. And then we get to all the total numbers and things like that. You might be saying, well, I'm listening to you and I'm seeing all these numbers, and seems to me that in various categories, the team fares better when she hasn't been playing. So how does this support your assertion that the team is not better without her? Well, really simple. You got a 2-game sample size. 2 games. She's only not played 2 games this season. And so you're not going to get a good indication of how the team is without her when the team has only been without her 2 times. That's not where you're going to get your information, not information that's valuable at all. You're going to get your information about how the team does without her when you look at a sample size, a bulk sample size of the team playing without her. And to do that, you have to go to 2025. That's where you're going to get your information, because remember, the team played without her most of the time. So we're going to go stick with StatMuse and we're going to look at 2025. So here in 2025, the Indiana Fever were 8-5 with Caitlin Clark. That means they only played 13 games with her. And that would mean 31 games without her and a winning record with her. So here we go again. The 2 categories here. Well, many categories, but 2 with her, 1 with her, 1 without her. That's what I'm trying to say. So 8-5 with her, without her 16.
But if you want a real sample size, you go back to 2025. That's where the truth lives, because Clark only played 13 games that season due to injury. The Fever played 31 games without her. Now you've got something to analyze. With Clark in 2025, 8-5 record, 61.5% win percentage, 87.8 points per game, 21.3 assists per game, 37 rebounds per game, 32.9 field goals made per game on 71.3 attempts, 46.2% shooting overall, 34% from 3. Without Clark, 16-15 record, 51.6% win percentage, points per game dropped to 83.6, assists dropped to 20.3, rebounds dropped significantly to 31.9, field goals made dropped to 30.7 on fewer attempts, 67.7. Shooting percentage dips to 45.4%. 3-point percentage to 34.8%. Go through every major statistical category, and the pattern is clear. The team performs better with her. Higher win percentage, more points, more rebounds, better offensive efficiency. The only categories where they're slightly better without her? steals per game and free throw percentage. Marginal differences that don't move the needle on wins and losses.
Now, 60, almost 62% win percentage with Caitlin last season, 52% without her. Games played, 13. Without her, 31. This is what I mean. You're going to get a good look because there were 31 games played without her. Points per game with Caitlin last season, 87.8 points per game with her. Drops to 83.6 without her. Rebounds, 37 with her. 31.9 without her. Quite a difference. Assists per game with her, 21.3. Without her, 20.3. Steals per game, 7 with her. Without her, 8. That's kind of interesting to me that with her, we have fewer steals per game in 2025. And this season, we have a little more steals with her in the game. So blocks per game, 3.1 blocks per game with her last season, 2.6 without her. Field goals made, 32.9 with her. Without her, 30.7. That's a drop as well, as you're seeing. I hope you're seeing the trend here. Field goals attempted, 71.3 attempts with Caitlin. Drops to 67.7 without her. Field goal percentage, 46.2 with her, 45.4 without her. Three-pointers made, 8.4 with her, 8.3 without her. Three-pointers attempted, 24.7 with her, 23.7 without her. Three-point percentage, 34 with her, 34.8 without her. Free throws made, 13.5 with her, 14 without her. Free throws attempted, 17.8 with her, 18 without her. And again, we see a drop in attempts when she's playing. Free throw percentage, 75.9 with her, 77.5 without her. And true shooting percentage, 55.4 with her, 55.3 without her. Offensive rebounds, 9.2 with her, 8.7 without her. Defensive rebounds, 27.8 with her, 23.2 without her.
One number really jumps out when you dig into the stats: free throw attempts. With Clark on the floor this season, Indiana attempts 23 free throws per game. Without her, that number jumps to 31. That's an 8 free throw gap. Significant. And it tells you something about how the game is being officiated when she's playing. Clark gets hacked constantly. The full court pressure, the physical defense, the contact that happens when she's driving or shooting, it's relentless. And yet the team gets fewer free throw opportunities when she's in the game. That's not a coincidence. That's a pattern. The player who draws the most defensive attention, who absorbs the most physical punishment, somehow isn't generating more trips to the line for her team. In fact, it's the opposite. When she's out, the offense slows down, becomes more methodical, and suddenly the whistle blows more often. That doesn't mean the team is playing better. It means the style of play is different, and the officiating adjusts to match.
Overs per game, 14.2 with her, 13.9 without her, and then we get to these total numbers right here. As you see here, through all these categories, with the exception of one, maybe two, the team is vastly better with Caitlin Clark. So, once again, there's no way anybody is looking at these numbers, and let's not just forget the eye test, and saying that the team is better off without her. Now, yeah, you can go to this season and you can say, oh, in 2 games, one of which was played against the Sparks, where they were depleted, and yeah, the Sparks this season, and say, oh, listen, the team blew out the Sparks without Caitlin Clark. Again, nobody, you'd have to be a Caitlin hater, or just dishonest, or not paying attention, don't know what you're talking about, to even suggest, when you look at a sample size that's worth evaluating, there's no way you can say, oh yeah, this team is better, when we can look at quite a few games without Caitlin Clark. She makes those around her better. I really don't feel like I even need to go through all that, because I think, as I said, people who are watching, people who pay attention, people who just are not haters, they see what Caitlin Clark brings to the team.
There's something else worth examining here: the reaction itself. Why does this narrative only attach to Clark? It's not just about basketball analysis. It's not just people debating whether a team can survive without its star for a couple of games. It's something deeper. Part of it is the visibility. Clark is the most watched player in women's basketball. Every game she plays draws massive ratings. Every move she makes gets analyzed to death on social media. So when she sits and the team wins, that becomes a story in a way it wouldn't for almost anyone else. But part of it is also deliberate. There are people who want to diminish her impact, who've been looking for any opportunity to argue she's overrated, that the hype doesn't match the reality. 2 wins without her is exactly the kind of convenient moment they've been waiting for. It doesn't matter that the broader evidence contradicts it. It doesn't matter that no other player gets this treatment. It's the narrative they want, so they push it.
To say it makes it, I'm just doing this right now, but I'm not going to spend any other games that she may miss throughout the season. I'm not going to spend all that time doing this kind of stuff, because clearly, if you know the game and you're not just trying to diminish Caitlin Clark, you know that she is an incredible asset to the Indiana Fever. They don't play better without Caitlin Clark. They play differently without Caitlin Clark, and it should cause them to step up. That's just the way you're supposed to do as a competitor, right? You have to scheme differently, you have to have a different plan, and then people have to execute. And thankfully, in the 2 games when they didn't have Caitlin Clark, they were able to do that, and they were able to get the win. That's the way it's supposed to go. But if you're not hearing these conversations about Alyssa Thomas, whose team won by 9 without her, and if you're not having these conversations about the Minnesota Lynx without Nafisa Collier, if you're not having these conversations about anyone else, then you have to ask yourself, am I just fundamentally dishonest? Is that who I am? Stop trying to rewrite stuff so that you can make it feel like Caitlin Clark.
And then there's the engagement factor. Controversial takes drive clicks, comments, arguments, saying Indiana played well without Clark, as professional teams should when their star is out, doesn't start a fight. Saying maybe they're better without her, absolutely does. It pits Clark fans against her teammates' fans. It creates division where none needs to exist. It generates heat, which generates attention, which generates revenue. The platforms know this. The content creators know this. So they keep pushing the button over and over, because people keep responding. And as long as people keep taking the bait, keep arguing in the comments, keep quote tweeting their outrage, the cycle continues. The solution isn't to ignore it entirely. Sometimes narratives need to be challenged with facts. But it is important to recognize when you're being manipulated into a fight that serves someone else's agenda.
An asset to her team. And let's just be honest, when it comes to skill, forget all the other stuff and all the other noise, when it comes to skill, how many of you are going to say, I'll bypass Caitlin Clark because, yeah, we're good without her? Enough of that. Enough of applying different rules to different teams so that you can diminish the generation.
So where does this leave us? With a simple truth that shouldn't be controversial. Indiana is not better without Caitlin Clark. They can win without her, yes, because they're a talented team with multiple all-stars and a strong coach. They can adjust their system, execute a different game plan, and compete at a high level for stretches. But over the course of a season, over a playoff run, over any meaningful sample size, the numbers are clear. They score more with her. They win more with her. They're a more dangerous, more dynamic, more complete team with her on the floor. And if you're not having this conversation about Alyssa Thomas, about Nafisa Collier, about any other star who misses time, then you need to ask yourself why you're having it about Clark. Because the answer to that question tells you a lot more about the person asking than it does about the player.
Clark is. She plays on a team of ballers, professional basketball players, obviously. 3 all-stars on that team. And so we expect them to step up, and we expect role players to step up. They answer the challenge. But it doesn't mean they want to go out there every night without Caitlin Clark. I can tell you that. But don't waste your time trying to convince people. Remember, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. You'll be having that same conversation again and again and again.
The next time someone tries to sell you this narrative, just ask them one question. If you're building a team from scratch and you have the choice, are you taking Caitlin Clark or passing on her because your team might be better without her? The silence that follows will tell you everything you need to know. So here's my question for you. Do you think this double standard exists because of Clark's visibility, because of genuine basketball analysis, or because controversy drives engagement? Drop your take in the comments. And if you're tired of surface-level hot takes and want actual depth on these stories, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started.